Here we are with another monthly highlights roundup, the time of the month where I like to reminisce. Maybe not reminisce, it's not quite reminiscing, is it? But talking about the previous month, the best music of that previous month, the best it had to offer, my favourites, and recommendations in case you never actually got around to watching the reviews themselves. I like doing these videos at this point because it's a good way to keep track of the best of each month, highlight what's been out, and it's good at this point of the year too because you notice that there is a bit of an increase of the highlights this month compared to other months in the year, because in the second half of any given year, I think music really picks up. It's always about September, October time where you get so many releases flooding all in at once, and it's just pretty difficult to suddenly start keeping track of them. So we have quite a few releases to get through here. Let's go, starting with a quick honourable mention, Bartees Strange, an indie rock artist that kind of came out of nowhere. I can't remember when or how I discovered this artist. I think it's a solo guy. He has like a backing band with him too, but he makes indie rock music. It's actually pretty lively and fun and energetic. The more I listen to it, there's some of the tracks really starting to pop out to me as being really, really good, and I was impressed because I hadn't even heard of this artist before, and apparently they're making another album, like they're in the process of putting out another album, so we might get another one at the start of next year. Definitely check it out if you're an indie rock fan. It's weird because some albums like this would really appeal to large audiences, especially considering, you know, most music nerds have a soft spot for indie rock. So it seems as though Bartees Strange should be one of the next big names to break out. Of course, shout out to Clipping as well. Did just review that on the channel a few days back. Go check out the review there. It's very lengthy. And there's no point in regurgitating the points I made there, honestly, because I said so much about the lyrics. I said so much about the production. I just feel like they elevated a lot of things on this album compared to there existed in Addiction to Blood. There were just refinements that I feel as though worked in the production area, and the hooks too, like David's singing on this is really on point on the choruses. He has this really sinister approach to writing songs about, you know, blood-curdling stories, disgusting, gruesome stories, and it just feels as though like this sister album just trumps the original album, for me anyway. Not everyone agrees. I think a lot of people think There Existed an Addiction to Blood is better, but I just enjoyed this one a lot more. Benny the Butcher, big shout out to Benny the Butcher. I feel as though, again, Griselda, I've said this already about Conway, but Griselda this year really stepped up their game. Still not the biggest fan of West Side Gun. I don't know if I'll ever overcome that hurdle, but Benny and Conway continue to impress me. Especially considering like the production on this album just feels so much different to what Benny's rapped over before. He was very much in his own like grimy lane before. If you listen to the EP from last year, it was very specific, kind of like grimy hip-hop type project, whereas this one, Hit Boy produced every track pretty much. I think he's on production on every song, and the beats are just so much different, so much upbeat, so much livelier than what I've heard him do before. His rapping is great. Some of the lyrics on the tracks are fantastic, which you'd expect that from Benny anyway, but I just feel like everything's just been elevated, and I'm really happy with this album. Next, I want to mention Machinedrum. I knew this album would go overlooked. Like, it's one of those albums that before it even come out, I was like, people are going to sleep on this. Even with a Freddie Gibbs verse, I knew for a fact people were going to sleep on this. And hip-hop heads sleeping like crazy, man. How are you not calling Cane Train with Freddie one of the best rap songs of the year? You're either saying it's one of the best of the year or you've not heard it. It's got to be one of those, because god damn, Freddie snaps on that track. The production is stellar. Across this entire album too, the variety is crazy. I mean, when you think of like some of my reviews where I say like the consistency or the flow is a bit off, I guess that Gorillaz album's a good example. That's a recent one where I say, you know, it feels more like a compilation because every track kind of goes to something different. Well, listen to this Machinedrum album and you'll see that, yes, nearly every track tries something different. It's either drum and bass, some of the atmospheric type stuff, it's some techno type stuff, it's some future garage type stuff, it's some hip hop with Freddie Gibbs. Like, somehow the consistency never loses itself, and every track just flows into one another really well. It just reminds me that while some albums may not be able to get that like flow well, it can work for some artists. And Machinedrum's been fantastic for years, honestly. He's been going at it since like the early 2000s, and so many projects under his belt are great, like the 2013 one, Vapor City. But this new one, I think, as well, is another highlight in his career. A great album, definitely ones for the electronic fans. So go check it out. Really impressed with Adrianne Lenker's songs. Goddamn, man, she is a wonderful songwriter. Her voice is just so full of wisdom. Like, she just has this tone to her voice that just makes it seem like she's just full of wisdom. And I love the tone of her voice over these really, really soft instrumentals. The lyrics are so damn thought-provoking across this, just like they are with her band Big Thief. And even her other solo stuff too. Like, she's just so good at capturing an image with the way she writes her music, and it's just one of the best highlights in singer-songwriters for the entirety of the year. She's honestly becoming one of the best songwriters of our time for me. I know that's a big claim to make, but I think if her consistency remains the same with her solo stuff, and then if Big Thief keep putting out really good music too, like I would struggle to not put her in that category. She really is just that good. Yeah, I'm impressed with this, really impressed with it. And I think even if you're not the biggest fan of Big Thief, you should even just check her stuff out, because like Ours Were the Birds, the 2013 album, isn't really like what you've heard in Big Thief, to be honest. So just check out what she's doing on a solo capacity, and I think you'll be pretty impressed. Also want to mention DJ Swisher. I think this is technically a September release, but I did get to it in the middle of October or late October-ish. Just seems like it's worth bringing up because it is pretty overlooked as EPs go this year. It's likely going to be my EP of the year too. Just combines great elements of footwork, which is a genre that's not really talked about that much, and pretty quite clearly isn't mentioned much, considering like you can tell when you upload a review and the views are pretty low, you can clearly see like a genre like that just isn't really talked about, and the views for that video were quite low. But I'm here to say once again, please check out footwork as a genre. Maybe even check out some like of the staples before you check out DJ Swisher. Even check out DJ Swisher's previous work, the Loz and Swisher album, which came out in 2016. Like, check out that one before this EP, because I think you'll have an appreciation for the genre. And even without that, I think you'll appreciate that he's trying to like take it a bit further and stretch the sort of genre boundaries a little bit with this EP. It's not just one thing, it's combining, you know, drum and bass, it's combining juke as well as the genre. So yeah, great EP, definitely check it out, and hopefully you get something out of it. And as always, I finish off with my album of the month. Hopefully you've stuck around for the entire video to find out what that is, because it is the Comanavago album, which is their debut album, Heart Failure, and is one of the best dance pop releases of the year. Like, if you ain't grooving to some of these songs, then I don't know what to recommend to you, man, because this is just such a great album. It's crazy to me because so many of these tracks are like radio ready. I know it's a bit of a cliche statement to make and might not even have much meaning to it, but the point I'm trying to make is that tracks like Do What You Like, In Love, even Annihilation, with it being such a big banger, are so accessible, and yet this group, this duo, is very, very, very unknown. Like, they're pretty much just doing all of this independently, and I've just got to wonder how, or even when are they going to blow up, because they really need that massive attention. There's so much accessibility to what they're doing, and they're so creative too. The second half of the album was much more creative with what they were doing in terms of production. Tracks like The Storm, like, yeah, man, I just know they're gonna go places, and I wanna be the person to tell you to check them out, because you gotta hear them. You gotta bloody hear them, man. You gotta friggin' hear them. You gotta listen to this. It's so good. And also check out the interview that I did with them as well, because that was really fun to talk to them, and you'll hear a bit more insight into what influences them, and you'll see the progression from what their influences are and what their favorite albums of this year are into what this album became, because it all kind of lines up really well, to be honest. And they're great. They're absolutely great. Hopefully they get huge. They need to. They're so good, and I can't wait to see what they do next. I cannot. So there we go, that's my monthly roundup highlights. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and got some recommendations out of it, and share the video as well, share the video along, that would be fantastic if you could do that. And let me know what your favourites of the month are. I'll put the tracks of the month on screen, some of my favourites that I've heard this past month that maybe have been released this past month too, on the screen. Hopefully you get some recommendations there. Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. Have a good day and goodbye.